In 1954, the Viet Minh ambushed and destroyed Group Mobile 100, a defeat which helped end French colonial rule in Indochina. 11 years later, the Viet Cong returned to Highway 19. They planned to repeat their decisive victory and isolate the Central Highlands. This channel's mission is to challenge the Vietnam orthodoxy. Much of what you know about the Vietnam War is either incomplete or false. To support this channel and its mission, please subscribe and like the video. Prelude. After the French defeat at Dien Bien Phu on June 24, 1954, Groupement Mobile No. 100 received orders to abandon its defensive positions at An Khe and withdraw 80 km to Pleiku. But in what is considered the last significant battle of the First Indochina War, GM 100 was ambushed by the Viet Minh on Route Colonial 19, the survivors finally reaching Pleiku on the 30th. Winter-Spring Offensive. During the 1964-65 Winter-Spring Offensive, the Viet Cong again turned to the highlands of central Vietnam. In December, at Can Lao in northern Binh Dinh province, the VC operated at regiment or task force strength of at least 3 or 4 battalions, and withdrew only under strong pressure by the ARVN, a departure from small-scale guerrilla actions to mobile warfare. Then, in February 1965, and concurrent with the attack on Camp Holloway, the VC launched a series of large-scale assaults, designed to seize control of northern Binh Dinh province. Several ARVN positions were overrun, and northern Binh Dinh province was seized. The remaining ARVN forces were driven into isolated enclaves at Bong Son and Phu My. An operation quickly followed in central Binh Dinh to cut Highway 19, the main supply route between Quy Nhon, the major port in the area, and the highlands. If successful, the operation would isolate the provinces of Con Nun and Pleiku, and put the VC in an excellent position for a later offensive during the rainy season. On February 14th, the VC launched their first serious attempt to harass Highway 19. Brigadier General Nguyen To, Two Corps commander, had anticipated this strategy after the Can Lao battle, and he began to strengthen positions along the main supply route between Quy Nhon and Pleiku. He deployed several CIDG companies into camps along Highway 19, while several infantry battalions were taken from static security missions and reassigned as mobile reserves. Helicopter landing zones and airstrips were resurveyed, and ammunition, POL and other supplies stockpiled, and the mobile reserves were trained for movement by helicopter, caribous and C-123s. CIDG and Rangers battled the VC. The first blow fell on an understrength regional force company moving from Pleiku to positions in Manzang Pass. Ambushed west of the pass, the company suffered several losses. The VC were armed with Chinese copies of the latest Soviet weapons, the SKS rifle, AK-47 assault rifle, RPD light machine gun, and a copy of the Soviet RPG-2 anti-tank rocket launcher, providing evidence of a new unit operating in the area. Then on February 20th, the Viet Cong launched their effort to seize Highway 19 and cut off the highlands, striking first at the CIDG outpost, Forward Operational Base No. 1, east of Manzang Pass. A CIDG company was immediately dispatched from An Khe, routing an ambush as it approached the outpost. The VC were forced to break and run, leaving weapons and bodies behind, and the CIDG company then continued to the outpost where it remained overnight. Returning to base camp the next day, the company was ambushed again, its vehicles knocked out by RPG anti-tank rockets, and the company suffered heavy losses. The CIDG company on alert at An Khe was then dispatched to help, but as it approached the ambush site, it was stopped by a roadblock and heavy 82mm mortar fire which destroyed the lead vehicle and caused several casualties. Threatened with encirclement and under mortar fire, the relief force then withdrew to An Khe. Plans were made for a CIDG company from Sui Zoi, a camp to the west of Manzang Pass, to move east down Highway 19, while forces in An Khe moved west, pressing the Viet Cong from 2 directions. A helicopter-borne Eagle flight of 1 CIDG platoon would also be on standby to be lifted to support the company from Sui Zoi, and a Ranger battalion, the Corps Reserve, was also alerted. Approaching the site GM 100 had been ambushed in 1954, RPG anti-tank rockets tore apart the trucks of the Sui Zoi CIDG company. Waves of VC, tossing grenades and armed with new weapons, then assaulted the company, which was supported by helicopter gunships and A-1E Sky Raiders. The company was overrun in ferocious hand-to-hand combat, the survivors fighting their way back to Manzang Pass. The Eagle Flight platoon landed east of the ambush site to put pressure on the VC rear. However, VC fire pinned down the Eagle Flight, which was then reinforced with the helicopter lift of a Ranger company. After coming under heavy fire and suffering several casualties, a defensive perimeter was established for the night. The rest of the Ranger battalion was air-landed by caribous at the An Khe airfield. The next morning, the Eagle Flight and the Ranger company seized the ambush site, and helicopters evacuated the wounded. The Eagle Flight and Rangers then began moving east along Highway 19, but due to strong VC forces in the area, they were ordered to join a nearby CIDG outpost, FOB-2, and await a relief force. The Ranger battalion at An Khe was ordered to attack down Highway 19 and link up with FOB-2. The Rangers began their advance on the morning of February 23rd, at first making rapid progress against light resistance. But soon after discovering destroyed trucks at the site the An Khe CIDG company was ambushed, they ran into a fortified VC position and were stopped with heavy casualties. Supported by heavy mortar fire, the VC then counterattacked, forcing the Rangers to slowly withdraw back to An Khe. Helicopter rescue at FOB-2. Colonel Hugh, the Corps Chief of Staff, then reconnoitred the area for the Corps Commander with the Corps Senior Advisor, Colonel Theodore C. Mataxis. The VC were in battalion strength and were using conventional fire and movement infantry tactics to seize the An Khe Valley. Colonel To, 2 Corps Commander, immediately requested reinforcement from the Saigon Reserve. The immediate problem was the 220 troops surrounded at FOB-2. They were expected to be overrun if not relieved soon. To approved a plan to extract them by helicopter, but as FOB-2 was surrounded, the helicopters would be vulnerable to small arms fire while landing and taking off. Mortar fire on the landing zone would make the situation even more difficult. General Westmoreland approved a plan to use jet aircraft for the first time in support of operations in Vietnam. The US jets provided suppressive fire while helicopter gunships escorted the slicks, and the 220 ARVN and CIDG troops were extracted in 3 lifts on the afternoon of February 24th. The last lift received mortar and sporadic small arms fire near the landing zone, but only 1 helicopter was hit and 1 man wounded. A task force from the General Reserve Airborne Brigade was arriving at the An Khe airfield, and it quickly attacked the VC battalion which had mauled the Rangers. The VC lost an estimated 200 men in this engagement, leaving many bodies and weapons on the battlefield. Special Forces Camp at Kannak. The VC next tried to overrun one of 2 Special Forces camps that acted as outposts for Highway 19. Kannak was north of Highway 19, Pleiku Zhang to the south. The camps were a particularly dangerous threat to VC resupply and evacuation of wounded. Elements of 2 VC battalions launched an attack on Kannak at 0150 on March 8th. In a bloody action, 2 smaller camp outposts were overrun, but the central part of the camp held firm, and the VC were driven off in complete disorder, leaving 126 dead in the wire and inside the outpost positions they had penetrated. Machine guns, 57mm recoilless rifles, Bangalore torpedoes and demolition charges were abandoned as the disorganised VC fled the battlefield, the back of their winter-spring offensive broken. General To then launched a phased counter-offensive. The first phase cleared the VC from highway approaches in the An Khe Valley, opening Highway 19 to civilian trucks carrying much-needed supplies for the Highland Plateau. As the VC withdrew back to their mountain and jungle bases, General To remarked that, "We have defeated them in open warfare. They must now make the choice of going back to guerrilla warfare or introducing new PAVN forces in order to regain a superiority in numbers. If they do this, the war will enter a new phase." With NVA units already entering South Vietnam through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the war was indeed entering a new phase.